Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about boring fixtures that are dating your home. Now let's get the disclosure out of the way, because you know I do this, otherwise they get all crazy down in the comment section and they lose their GD minds, okay, down there. If you love all this stuff and you're like, oh no, but I love my cherry wood cabinetry in my kitchen, Nick, what are you talking about? Then don't change anything, okay? You don't have to change anything. I'm not gonna come to your house. There's no one's gonna tell you what to do. You can do whatever you want in your own home, okay? So no need to freak out in the comment section, we get it. No need to click the thumbs down button, the dislike, like, you know what I mean? Like, well, go for it, I don't care if you do. But like, you know, you don't need to freak out, okay? Like if you love these things, keep them in your home, you don't have to do anything. But I'm just telling you as an anonymous friend on the internet that cares for you deeply, these are things that are looking a little dated and you might want to change them out, or, which I have some suggestions, keep them, but maybe modernize them in some interesting ways that's a little bit less work because, you know, some of this stuff might be challenging to work with. So let's get to the list of boring finishes, not the trendiest stuff that you're seeing out right now, but just stuff that you may have had in your house for 30 years and might be time to replace. Let's get going. Okay, but before I tell you about common finishes making your home look a little bit boring, I want to remind you that Father's Day is right around the corner, and luckily today's sponsor, Ekster, has got you covered so that you don't show up empty-handed. Ekster makes beautiful, amazing wallets that are super slim and like slim enough to really fit into your pocket, which is amazing, but they just really have amazing card storage with their different sort of ingenious little pop-up mechanism that allows you to sort of access your cards really easily. Now you just click the little button, and it's always really impressive, by the way, when you use it at a coffee shop. Like, I feel like the baristas are always like, oh, that's a really cool wallet. I got the Ekster Wallet Pro in brown for myself and in the tan for my father. The leather is handcrafted Italian leather and it is stunning. It holds anywhere from 1 to 14 cards and bills, which is more than enough for me. Ekster also offers finder cards, which can easily be paired with your smartphone, that your wallet then is super trackable, which is amazing because I lose my wallet all the time. So if you're looking for the perfect gift for a father in your life, Ekster's Father's Day sale is up, giving you 40% off right now until June 26th. Use promo code nicklewis at checkout to get an additional 10% savings. Thanks Ekster for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to common finishes, making your home look a little bit dated. Okay, first on my list is gonna be oil rubbed bronze fixtures, ORB as it's called in the biz. What is oil rubbed bronze? It's oil rubbed bronze. It's hard to say, it's a bit of a tongue twister, so I'm just gonna say ORB, okay? So it's just easier for everybody. It's this. Okay, you might be looking at this and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It looks a little bit like it belongs in like a pump from an old well, do you know what I mean? Back in like Anne of Green Gables time or something. I don't know, it looks like kind of it fits that motif, if you will. So it's very farmhousey, it's a little bit dated. It was used a lot in the 90s and the 2000s, which is what you're gonna see a lot in this video, because I think like this stuff is looking dated now because we've had a 25-year cycle for it. So now it's like, if it's still in your home, it's probably looking pretty dated. So oil rub bronze, this is probably a fairly easy fix for you to swap out, okay? It's not, you know, you can swap these out fairly easily and get a different colored fixture, which I'm gonna get to in a second. First of all, of course, if you love it, keep it. Like if you love an industrial look, if you like a Tuscan farmhouse look and you love the look of wanting to pretend like you live in an olive garden, this is the way to go. If you love a modern farmhouse, this is fantastic for you. So good for you, but it is looking a little bit dated and it's looking a little stuck in 2003. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna change it for a finish that is a little bit, makes a little bit more sense. Something that's gonna be a little bit more timeless, or maybe even something a little bit more trendy for its time right now that is kind of usurped. That's a word, right? Usurped oil rub bronze. So what is a more timeless choice? Brushed nickel or chrome, I think, are gonna be much more timeless choices than ORB because it's sort of, they've been around for a very long time and they are gonna continue to be around. I just think you cannot go wrong with a chrome faucet. You know, yes, you might not like it. It's not always gonna be like the trendiest option right now, even though chrome is very popular at the moment. Chrome goes in and out of style, but at the end of the day, it never looks completely dated like ORB does. Brushed nickel, I would also put in the same category. So if you don't love the shininess of chrome, brushed nickel is another great option for you. So it feels a little bit more, or satin nickel, sometimes it's called. There's lots of different variations in tone when we're talking about the metals. Because you know me, I'm not the metal police. I don't get caught up in the metal choices necessarily, except when it comes to ORB, because this one in particular just has that Tuscan kitchen vibe, and that is what is making it look particularly dated, I think, right now. And I'm not holding out a lot of hope that this trend is gonna come full circle and come back around in the next 5 years. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So chrome is a great option for something a little bit more timeless, or brushed nickel. Now, if you wanna go for something that's a little bit trendy and you're feeling like you're gonna chance it again with something that feels a little bit trendy, and maybe won't be, because who knows, we don't have the crystal ball to necessarily tell us for sure, but where have the ORB people gone? They've all gone to matte black, and that is sort of, you know, makes sense for those particular styles, right? So industrial style, farmhouse style, you know, even in some traditional or some modern sort of farmhousey sort of spaces, they've moved into matte black. Now, is matte black going to be here forever? I don't know. Why are you asking me? Do you know what I mean? Like, I have no clue. If I were a betting man, I would say that it's the high contrast all black fixtures on top of white cabinetry, I think is gonna be dated in my opinion, but I do think that there is still room for matte black. And talking to people that work in the biz, in the fixture space, matte black is still very, very popular. Another one that's a sleeper one that most people don't know about that I personally really love is like metallic black, like black chrome. It's like a darker chrome, and it's if matte black and chrome had a baby. But I just really like that one personally. But do I think it's the trendiest, hottest one at the moment? No, of course not. I do think ORB is looking particularly dated. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be cherry wood cabinetry. Cherry wood cabinetry is hard to pull off, I think, right? Because it's so warm and so red and so dark that it really is heavy in a kitchen because it's a lot of cabinetry. Okay, so if you're gonna do a lot of cabinetry in your kitchen, which of course you are because you're a human that has, you know, things that go in kitchens, right? So you're gonna have a lot of cabinetry, and so the problem sometimes with cherry wood is that it's very heavy and very dark and makes such a statement in a home. And considering that styles over the last 20 years, since this was really popular, have erred more towards the lighter, sort of fresher spaces, cherry wood has but felt really quite dated and a little bit boring, I think, for a lot of people. And so it's very difficult to work with because of that, because it's so dark and so warm, and also because it's like the undertone, which is obvious to anybody with eyes, is red. And red is a notoriously difficult color to pull off on the color wheel. Blue, easy. Green, easy. Pink even. Fairly easy to work into a color scheme. And of course you got your neutrals, your blacks, your whites, your grays, and your beiges. But like red is really hard because it sort of feels like your walls are bleeding. And that is a really difficult color to pull off in interior design. Now, I like red in interior design. I think it can look stunning. I think it can look beautiful when done correctly. And red cabinetry, or at least cherry red cabinetry, it's sort of a really difficult, tough color to pull off in a kitchen because there's just generally so much of it. Okay, what do you do if you have it? Okay, well, if you're doing a full renovation, paint it, get new cabinets, do what you need to do. If you're due for a renovation and you want to do a renovation, even though, let's be honest, kitchen renovations are awful, the worst, by the way, the worst renovation you can do is a kitchen, followed closely by bathrooms, then feel free to swap out your cabinetry for something different, right? Obviously, that's not a great tip. Get rid of it and replace it with something different. Good job, Nick. Okay, but you know, what would you replace it with? Something lighter, something fresher, you know, like in a cream, or, you know, you could do the all white kitchen, which I stand by is timeless. I do think it ebbs and flows in popularity, but it is a timeless choice in my opinion. Other wood choices, oak is really popular right now for kitchens. Walnut, if you want to do that, even though again, walnut does air quite dark and can be a little bit overwhelming depending on the space. Again, styles have moved lighter and fresher, especially in kitchens over the last 20 years. So, you know, wood cabinetry are great options, but generally lighter woods make more sense that don't have so much of an obvious color to them the way that you do with cherry red. Or different colored cabinetry. Of course, you've got the whites, the creams, the greens, all those stuff is really popular as well. Black is also an option, although again, I personally feel like black cabinetry is very trendy. And if I were to be like, yes, I want to put my stamp on a kitchen that's not going to get replaced for 20 years, personally, I wouldn't do black cabinetry, but I do think it can look really cool. Now, from there, you're like, okay, I don't want to replace my cabinetry, or it's too much, or whatever. I don't want to paint the cabinets. I don't want to touch them. What other options do you have if you really are adamantly against it? Changing out your countertops or your backsplash can make sense. Like, for example, look at this picture here, right? It's the trifecta. We've got the cherry red cabinets. We've got the like speckledy, you got those little dated, horrible little tiles in the back there. Those ones were so popular in the 2001. What else have we got, right? We've got the over-the-range microwave. That's the trifecta of dated design right now when it comes to kitchens. This kitchen feels very dated for that reason. So changing out the countertop to something in a lighter color and keeping the cherry red cabinetry can make sense. Changing out the backsplash into something lighter and fresher. A little bit, you know, not so, whatever the heck those tiles were called. You know what I mean? Those might make a lot of sense. What else can you do? Oof, cherry red cabinetry. Oh, another thing, maybe possibly two-tone cabinetry is also something that we've seen being very popular in the last several years, right? So if you're feeling so overwhelmed with so much cherry red cabinetry, but you're not quite ready to ditch it because you kind of like it, that's cool too. Maybe just just like take the uppers and paint those guys, right? There might be less uppers depending on the sort of kitchen that you have. And so painting that in something like a light cream or something on the warmer side with maybe even a pinky reddy undertone, a very slight, could be really fun and a modern twist on the cherry red cabinetry. So you've got options there, but definitely this is looking really heavy, really red, and therefore really, really dated. Okay, next up on boring finishes and things that look incredibly out of date, I'm gonna have to go with the countertop bar. The countertop bar, I get where we went with this. Do you know what I mean? I understand where we went. We thought, how do we make it so that we, you know, maybe we've got people sitting at the kitchen island, they're doing their homework, maybe for serving, things like that. How do we create like kind of a step up so that we have like our prep space underneath and maybe we've got sort of a serving space on top? I see where we were going with that. You know, I see where it is, but it's just in general, not how people are doing kitchens anymore. So if you are renovating, get rid of this. This is an easy way to sort of move on from this, because I do think that although fun in theory, personally, I think this is looking incredibly dated at this point. Most people nowadays are just having their kitchen islands or their peninsulas or whatever just on one level, and we're not doing the two-tier, two-step sort of scenario that we saw being so popular back in the 90s. Now, I will say I have seen some interesting countertop step up situations that are a little bit more modern in their approach. And so maybe if you don't want to do a full renovation, you know, there's some ways that you can sort of clad it a little bit, or, you know, there's different sort of options that I'm seeing pop up over the internet that are kind of cool ways for you to take that step and do something a little bit more updated, as opposed to sort of kind of taking away from that 1990s and bringing it a little bit more updated, while without necessarily doing an entire new renovation. So those are really great options to basically update it that way. But I do think that overall, you know, if you're looking to do a renovation and you have this already and you're thinking, do I need to get rid of it? It is looking incredibly dated, and might be, if you have one of these and it's in its original form, it might be time to consider just the option. If you can afford it, perhaps maybe time to do some sort of a renovation to that space to create something a little bit more even. If you are doing a renovation, that's something that you might want to consider, because it's much easier for conversation with people that are sitting at the kitchen island. It's easier for prep. You don't use these for serving as much as you think you will, because I don't know, it's not like it's like it's not like this is what you're not serving a happy hour to the neighbor, you know what I mean, to the neighbors. Like typically you kind of want to converse with the people that are, you know, in your kitchen and that you're hosting a party or something, right? So this isn't really the best use case for this. I see where we were going with it, but ultimately it's just not how people are using their kitchens now in 2025. So this is looking incredibly dated and time to go. In my opinion, something that's really trendy right now, just a little bonus tip for you, that I think runs the risk of going the same direction as these countertop steps, those like built-in islands that are like built in weird ways off of existing islands. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like when you have your regular island for prep or whatever, and then they just like have a dining table jutting out from the side or jutting out in front of it or whatever. Personally, I think that runs the risk of also looking pretty dated in a few years. I don't love those right now. I wouldn't do it in my own home. Again, I understand the theory. Why not take the island or the peninsula and sail off into the sunset and turn it into a dining table? Cool, I get the space saving, but it doesn't make sense. Have a completely separate dining table in my opinion. So that's just the little one that I think is really popular right now that I don't think is gonna age well, but I think it's gonna go the same way as the countertop step, which is people just don't do it anymore. Okay, next on my list is gonna be the bulb strip in bathrooms, also known as the Hollywood style bulbs. Okay, so if you're like, this just feels like you're at backstage at a Broadway show. Do you know what I mean? Like in the dressing room, I feel like I've seen this in like, I don't know, Dreamgirls. Do you know what I mean? Like they're all sitting back there and that's what they have. This in the bathroom is just a very dated light fixture at this point, and I still see them all the time in people's bathrooms. And again, if you have it and you love it, or you have it and you don't love it, but you're stuck with it, then, you know, just keep it, it's fine. But there are ways that you can take this out, especially if it's built into the mirror, which you can replace with lights that make a little bit more sense on are both more beautiful, but also more flattering, and also perhaps more functional, so that you're able to complete the tasks that you need to do in the bathroom. These were popular a long time ago, and I just think that they're really not as popular anymore as they used to be, and people are understandably replacing them with pieces that I think make a little bit more sense. So what are people doing instead? Well, first of all, yes, you know, these were not, I think the idea originally was that these would really blind you with so much light to be able to do the tasks that you need to do in the bathroom, right? To do your hair, to do your makeup and stuff like that. Nowadays, there are sconces, there are lamps, and there are just more powerful and just better lights that you can use in a bathroom to be able to accomplish the tasks that you need to do. And you don't need 50 light bulbs that have no shade, and they're just blinding you every single morning as you sit there and get ready. So these ones don't make much sense anymore. I think there are just better options that are available to you. And even if you have it built into a mirror, there are still other options for you to swap those out and still be able to kind of keep the mirror and whatever. Options that people are considering instead, right? Sconces being a really great example, perhaps even taking out that big giant ballet mirror and putting in something smaller that makes more sense, that is right size for the bathroom, for what you actually need it for, because turns out you're not in a ballet class, and so it turns out you don't actually need to have a full wall of mirror in order to be able to do what you need to do in there. So that makes, you know, people are putting in just sort of smaller mirrors that are just more practical and for what they actually need to do in the bathroom. Putting two sconces next to it is a really grand, beautiful look, and people are doing that a lot, which is really great. And also putting a light or even a light just above it if you have maybe a smaller bathroom and you don't have the space to put two vanity lights next to it. Those are much better options, and they're going to provide adequate light for you without blinding you to be able to accomplish what you need to do. And it's going to be, you know, lighting that comes from the front, because so often in the bathroom people just rely on the one light in the center of the room, which is down lighting, and that's not going to provide you with the adequate light that you're going to be able to do. So these Hollywood style lights, I will say that they do provide you with a lot of light, blinding you in the face, and therefore that's a better option than having no light at all. But there are superior bulbs and lighting fixtures and stuff that are available to you that are so much better. Okay, next on my list is going to be decorative iron scroll work. This is for decor, but it's also for fixed elements as well. You see this a lot in banisters that people have in their homes, or you see this a lot in gates or even outdoor patio furniture. You're seeing this, of course, in other decor pieces, like perhaps, oh, I don't know, with some grape leaves accompanied on a wine rack in the kitchen. Perhaps that same Tuscan kitchen that we talked about earlier with the cherry red cabinetry. You know the one I'm talking about? These are starting, and by starting, I mean like they've looked like this for a while, looking to look really, really dated. And that is because I think that there are different materials that make more sense than this very particular trend where we saw so much iron scroll work being used all over the place. This made sense for the particular design style that was popular at the time, back in the early 2000s. And therefore, this is sometimes where a lot of these material choices or particular looks or particular decor or fixed elements go wrong, is they latch themselves so clearly to a particular design style that was so popular at the time. And then inevitably, when that style kind of goes out of fashion, these pieces no longer have the place that they sort of needed to. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would say that right now, postmodern is really popular, but some of these postmodern pieces, although cool and funky in 2025, are gonna look really silly and stupid in 2035, in my humble opinion. And I think the scroll work kind of fits into that category. That is why, you know, it's looking quite dated, because it's just locked into a very particular design style that was popular 25 years ago. So what is being used instead? Well, a lot of people are opting for other metals. They're a little bit simpler, a lot more simple, and more pared down and more stripped of kind of all that intricacies that they sort of have. As well, people opting for different material choices, wood being a great timeless option. Now, you might be thinking, but Nick, I don't want some boring, stupid staircase that just has plain old boring, the beigeification of homes. And I love the detailed scroll work that you get with some of this iron cool scroll stuff that you have. Okay, great, then just keep it, right? There's lots of options that you can do. You can update your flooring, for example. You can update, if it has carpet in the space, you can update that to our engineered hardwood or what. Like, there's lots of things you can do. You don't have to do any of this. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. Were you listening? Like, you don't have to do any of this. You can just keep it. And I do think sometimes these things that are really dated, it's sometimes just the stuff around it looks really dated. And again, because it's so closely associated with that particular time period or that style, it's the stuff around it that's looking dated. And actually, that stuff itself isn't that bad. I would still say that the iron scroll work is looking dated. It's locked into a specific period of time, a specific style, and therefore there are other better options that are available right now. But again, if you love it, sometimes just updating the stuff around it, like the beige ceramic tiles that we saw in the past, or the beige carpets, or the nicotine beige walls that so closely accompanied this style, you know, perhaps the grape leaves that leaned into some of the signs that were being done in the early days of the early 2000s, you know, all that stuff is starting to sort of be associated with that scroll work, which is what's making it look incredibly dated. So definitely different material options available to you that I think are going to definitely feel a little bit more modern than the scroll work. I'm not saying it's horrible and ugly, I'm just saying it's dated. Okay, so that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Now, I am gonna leave you here with trends that are making a comeback. These are the design elements that I have seen in the past. Maybe these 5 one day, I doubt it, will actually appear in this list, but these are 5 things that are making a comeback that were dated before, but now have become popular again. So maybe you wait long enough and cherry red cabinets will come back. I don't know. But I'm gonna send you on over to that video and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.